happy day, whatever day it is, and welcome back. It's been a hot minute and a half of my last time speaking into a device. A lot of things have happened in between my last video and this one. Predominantly what happened to my not so beautiful legs. I have had I don't even know what you would call it, because it's not a disease, it's just something that unfortunately a lot of the population has and will have, and is just a stupid human thing that happens. Basically, for the last so many years, even before I went to Disney, which was back in 2013, I want to say around 2012, my legs were not the greatest. I noticed a few not so pretty lines on my legs, and at the time kind of went, well, okay, I guess it's just how it is. Nothing I can do about it, much like the rest of my goddamn skin. It's just another blow to what society will call beauty. I went through a whole circus of things back in 2012. I went to a specialist. I went to a specialized doctor's slash practice to get some information on why my legs kind of look like they do. Turns out I have and had varicose veins, which, if I say that, most people would go, oh, okay, not that bad. And theoretically, it's not that bad. A lot of people have them, like I say, mostly older, elderly people you will see with the stockings on and with the big lumpy purple and red veins that pop out of their skin and make them discolored and everything like that. That is what you picture varicose veins as. Varicose veins for me are very internal. My main ones stem in this lovely main vein, and it branches out like a very ugly tree to surface veins, which are not that pretty. Basically, what was happening with my legs was the blood was running down and just kind of went, well, most like the rest of my life, I'm giving up. And then it kind of just pooled and eventually would try and make its way through the system. Your blood is actually meant to run down and go through the system and back up again and around and around and around. Mine was just going down and then going, we might sit here for a while. So a lot of fluid was captivating in the bottom of my legs, around my ankles, and particularly in my left leg. It was making my calf a little bit larger than my other leg. We went to the specialist and that's what they told me. They took photos and showed me, and we had ultrasounds done that same day to see what was going on, and then it went, this is how much money you're going to give us to fix this problem. And if you're not an elderly person with risk of anything, it costs pretty much, they could have just cut off the leg and it would have been cheaper. At the time in 2012, to put a rod into my bad leg, because at that stage it was only what they classified one leg as the bad problem. they would have stuck a rod down it, burnt it to hell, and that would have been the end of it. For that, it was $2.5 grand for one leg. So $5 grand all up if I got both done. And there wasn't any Medicare or private health fund rebates on that. So my car at the time cost me $2 grand. So that just was kind of mind blowing, and at the time I went, well, I'm not paying $2.5 grand to have a shitty surgery that may not work, because in every place that I've gone, the pretty much response at the end is there's a chance it may not work. So we kind of left the office, didn't go back. And then I went to Disney, and I was working between 14 and 16 hour days at World of Disney, and those 14 to 16 hour days on my ridiculous legs, just didn't like it. There was points when I was doing a 15-hour shift, 6 hours in, I would have to get those heated pockets, so the things that you would break and they would heat up for your hands. I would have to put them in my pant pockets to try and elevate the pain that was running through them. I would come back after work and just see the whole surface vein just enlarged and just not looking good. We came back from Disney, and the thought was back on the table to get something done. I then went to uni up on the Gold Coast, so I left Newcastle, and that thought was taken off the table while I did my uni degree. The thought was brought back on the table while I was back up on the Gold Coast, and I went to see my GP, got a specialist referral, and went through the whole circus again. There was only two specialist doctors that worked out of Gold Coast Private Hospital. The first one, pretty much when I called to make an appointment to see them, had the response of, "You can't afford us," without me giving any context, me just wanting to make an appointment. Obviously they were off the table despite if they were paid or not. They didn't even give me a chance. The second one I went to gave me the option of sclerotherapy. I'm probably saying that completely wrong, but that is pretty much where you get operated on, and they strip your veins. So they make cuts all the way down the leg and pull the vein out. And that method has been going on for many years. It's pretty much the original way of how they would treat varicose veins. So that one was on the table. The other one was the laser, once again sticking a rod down, burning it, and pretty much having that done without 100% being successful. And then the last option was, there is a very good medical term for it, but it is basically filling the vein with a foam substance and compressurizing it and making it stick, and eventually it dying in its own cause. They were trying to push not to have the operation, the first option, and they were pushing very strongly to have the foam injection. So pretty much the burning of the veins was taken completely off the table, and it was these two options. The operation was covered by my healthcare health fund, private health fund, and would be done in a private hospital, while the foam substance would be done in the office, the specialist office, and would cost me $500 a leg without 100% success rate. I think it was more than $500. It was $500 a session per leg. So $1,000 pretty much per leg per session, and there was meant to be 6. So that option with the foam, I didn't want to go through. My family kind of researched it on my behalf and went, nobody knows about this, we're taking it off the table. So I was left with the operation going under, having all the cuts down my leg. My health fund said they were going to cover it, and it was kind of like back and forth with the specialist office. Turns out my health fund wasn't completely going to cover it, but I was happy to pay the out of pocket costs of whatever it was going to cost, and it worked out to be $1.5 grand basically. And went back and forth. The date of my operation was pretty much a week and a half away, and I had no idea what the hell was going on. I called the office and went, I can't come into this operation because I don't know how much it's going to cost me. And they said, oh, we're still waiting on the hospital, we're still waiting. I said, just cancel my appointment, just don't even touch me while I don't know anything. And pretty much an hour later they called me back and went, we can still do the foaming, we can still do, why don't you just book in for the foaming? And that was kind of a big signal to me going, don't even go near this. Because if they're pushing for a product that my health fund is not going to cover, then I'm not going to give them every penny of my dollar for something that may not work. And then big move happened. I'm back in Newcastle. That's completely taken off the table again. And towards the end of last year, I had a consultation again with a Newcastle-based practice, and it started the circus running again. And the whole steps are basically the same up until the point that you make a decision on what treatment you want. So you go to your GP, get a specialist, a specialist form thing to take to them. You go in, get your original consultation. They may do the ultrasound in-house and is bulk billed, or they may get you to go to a hospital and get the ultrasound done there, which is what the Gold Coast practice did. So I went to the Gold Coast private hospital, had a really big ultrasound done that took 45 minutes. The other one in Newcastle that I originally went to was in-house, took me 20 minutes, and the other Newcastle one, my most recent one, was done in-house, took less than 20 minutes. So after that, you go back, have another consultation, and they pretty much give you your options of what treatment can be. The varicose, the vein specialist that I went to this time around, they gave me the options of laser and sclerotherapy and the foaming. But at the time, the foaming was given to me as a backup option, which they weren't going to offer me because my veins weren't as horrible as it is required for the foaming technique. So that when my doctor pretty much said that to me, a big red light went off for the person on the Gold Coast. So I'm so glad I didn't get anything done by that specialist. He's probably a good specialist, but for me at my age of 27, I don't think he understood how to take care of my veins compared to somebody who's elderly. I don't know what the hell was going on there, but they were pushing that one product, and so glad I wasn't. And the other option was doing the sclerotherapy. I think that's right. All the cuts down my legs, and pretty much she said to me, it's an outdated procedure, don't get it done. There is high risk of infection and things going wrong, and I don't want to do that to you. So that was kind of it. I also went to another another specialist prior to the one I ended up at, and was given the burning of the veins, so putting the electric rod down them and burning them in-house by another specialist that was recommended by a family member, and that wasn't even going to be done in a private hospital or anything like that. It was all in-house, which is not covered by any private health fund, and would have cost me $2,500 per leg. So another one, so pretty much I've been through this process 4 times to get to an actual outcome and treatment, and it kind of sucks, but we eventually got there. I ended up booking in for the laser and was going to be completely zonked out because it's not fun at any point somebody attacking your legs to make them better. I've always had a backhand fear that I would wake up or I would come out of a surgery and not be able to use my legs, which is a complete irrational fear because it's a regular procedure that happens nowadays, and but I was just completely scared of the whole fact of it. I was booked in and pretty much got it done. On the 5th of March I went into surgery and went under. I could not eat all day, and I didn't go in till about 2 o'clock in the afternoon and came out about 4:30 in just a big lot of pain. Basically, I thought they were just going to cut me open, put a rod down me and burn. That's what I thought the surgery was going to be. That's not what it turned out to be. So before I went in, they took me down to the operations level and took me into pretty much a holding pen that was freezing cold, and my doctor circled me. So basically where all my surface veins was, she circled, and when I came out there was little purple holes where my surface veins were taken out. So I had keyholes pretty much to remove all surface veins, and also had my main horrible veins burned and crisped and compressurized pretty much. And it was a hard 24 hours. The first nurse I had at the private hospital here in Newcastle in the Lake Macquarie area was amazing. She deserves some sort of medal. This lady was just amazing. She made me feel alright the whole time she was on shift, and just kind of went out of her way to just help me out the best she could. I was put in as a high risk of falling, obviously, because both my legs were out of 100% use. So to get up and just go to the bathroom was just a nightmare. and when she left for shift, I had a really shitty nurse, and was still in that high risk of falling stage, and I pretty much had to get out of the hospital bed and to the bathroom by myself and just hope I didn't fall down or not be able to get back up. I was released from hospital the next day, the next morning, pretty much in the afternoon again, after being ultrasound to make sure that everything was okay, and had my lovely compression stockings on, which cost me $160 out of pocket, and I could not claim that back through private health fund. Yay! They were left on for, let's say, 2 weeks. 2 weeks I had to wear these heavy duty stockings, and I went back to work pretty much. I went in on a Wednesday, I think it was, and I was back to work on the Friday. And I work in hospitality, so I'm on my legs for 8 hours a day. That was a lot of fun, but by the third day I was already going stir crazy, so I was happy to be back at work despite being in pain. There I am still recovering. There was a long period of just me being in a tad bit of pain, but a lot of it came from the uncomfortableness of having numbness in my legs, which is still ongoing due to the nature of where the veins are and the rest of my veins, my good working veins, because of the proximity of them inside my legs. Every now and then, thankfully now, it's just a patch from my knee all the way up to mid-thigh on my left-hand side. Everywhere else is perfectly fine now. It was both my legs at one stage, and not the funnest thing having numbness in the legs, especially for long periods of time. It's very uncomfortable and can turn quite painful. So we're all good on that side now. I went back to my specialist doctor, and what I was hoping a good outcome, most of it was. I'm not going to say it was all horrible. They did another ultrasound to make sure that everything was closed up, everything was good, and most of it was. Apart from the what I like to call the bitch vein. My biggest surface vein on my left leg is kind of the most ugliest one on my legs. It runs a good distance and is the most prominent. About, I want to say 60%, majority of this surface vein was removed, which is fantastic, but not all of it was. So to prevent having to come back and having another surgery in the future, earlier rather than later, I have to go back to my specialist and have the foam and be in my $160 compression stockings for another 2 weeks. It is not in hospital, and it is involving needles, and I won't be put under, so it's not going to be fun. I do not like needles, despite having tattoos and being absolutely fine giving blood. So yeah, my surgery isn't quite done yet. We're still pushing through. I go back to my specialist to have the foaming inserted into my surface vein on the 22nd of July, I want to say 22nd of July, which is a week before my brother's wedding. So it will be highly likely that I'll change that date so I can be happy at a wedding that is my brother's, and not have to stress about being in pain, because it's going to be painful. Is my journey on my ridiculous legs still ongoing, and I now get to wear lovely fashionable knee-high socks for most of my days, if I'm not, when I'm at work, if I know I'm going to be on my legs for long periods of time, if I know I have to go somewhere, I now get to wear lovely socks like this. And I feel like I'm back in high school with my knee-high socks and Converse. But it is all for the sake of my health and recovery and ongoing health, and to make my calves the same size. Whole story of where I've been for the last couple of months. Previous to that, I was just flat out stressed out doing something that will be coming to the channel in the very near future, and it's going to be an adventure, and still on the road to recovery, and it's going to be a long journey, I think, but it's already been a long journey and it's getting closer to the end. I will see you next time on the flip side with another travel vlog. Alrighty, have a good period of time between now and then. Bye now.